Okay, so here's the internal passage system of the Great Pyramid. Now, there's a whole school of Christian interpreters going back to C.P. Isaac Smith, Adam Rutherford, probably even John Taylor, that suggests that the Great Pyramid reveals dates. And there's the old saying that says, man fears time, but time fears the Great Pyramid because it knows time ahead of time. So one of the formulas that's been used is an inch equals a year. Now, I read one place, the only place in Greek literature where those two are combined is when Jesus said, "Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his own stature?" So the Greek word for stature really has to do with the length of your life. So Jesus says, which of you can add a cubit, which is a linear measure, to the length of your life, which is time. So Jesus, even though the point he was making by saying, which of you by taking thought can add 1, he was really speaking about the futility of worry. So the main teaching there is you shouldn't worry so much about things. The hidden teaching is that he relates measures of time and space. And so the idea that these Christian interpreters, largely Christian interpreters, have used in saying that there's an inch per year in the Great Pyramid is credible. And it's one of the many ways the Great Pyramid gives meaning. So when you take an inch per year, you start out with the time that the pyramid was built, the Exodus, then you count the number of years from the Exodus, and you've got the time of Christ, and then, so basically the first ascending passage with its girdle stones there represents the Old Covenant, the era of darkness or whatever, and then the era after the point of Christ's birth is the Christian dispensation, basically the era of light, because it's a much higher ceiling. So Dr. Leland Jensen of the Baha'i faith says that the 4 girdle stones, which are right there, you can see in the first ascending passage, that the 4 girdle stones represent 4 major religious figures. Okay, so Moses, Krishna, Zoroaster, and Buddha. And the girdle stones, which he says represents them, and he shows a time formula. It's a little different than an inch per year, but he shows how he gets those years, and they're in the right time frame. So these girdle stones are really amazing pieces of architecture. They're like a big donut. They're a single stone, and so they encompass the first ascending passage. And most people that study the pyramid say it's done to add strength so that the crushing weight doesn't collapse the first ascending passage. By putting these girdle stones in there, they're a major part of the construction. So the implication is, even though you have to crawl to get through the first ascending passage, it's kind of in darkness, you're low, it symbolizes maybe, a lack of full light, that these are important figures. So it's interesting when you look, where they are geographically. Moses, the Israelites, you've got basically, the southwest Levant there, and then Krishna, basically India, and then Zoroaster, basically Persia, the area in between those two, and then you got Buddha, which is, basically what started in India, ended up taking over the East, or the Orient, China. And so it's interesting that these religious figures in the first ascending passage represent the religions of the East. And so it's interesting, the Grand Gallery, after this first ascending passage, low, narrow, dark, you have this expansive passage, the second highest corbelled architecture in the world, supporting millions of weight of tons, symbolizes the Christian dispensation, which largely, you have to say that the Christianity's been the religion of the West. Now, in some ways that's fading. In many ways we live in a post-Christian era, but it's been true that historically that's been the religion of the West. So it's just amazing that the Great Pyramid seems to know these things before they happen. Pay attention to the silent sage. Follow this channel. Thanks for watching.